Hello and welcome to the Permaculture Vine podcast, where we talk about permaculture projects and people. My name's Cormac and I'm your host, and today we have Alex Popp with us. Welcome, Alex.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Cormac. So great to be back.
Yeah, I think it's your third one, but we never actually got an interview.
The first one where it's just one-on-one. I came on
Yeah.
with Chanel and Annette last summer.
Right, do you want to just give us a quick 30-second introduction, please?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, hey, I'm Alex Popp. I'm a permaculturist, and my company, PermaCulture Party, designs and installs edible landscapes or foodscapes, food forests, a lot of different things we can call them. And then we also host community planting parties. We call them a permaculture party. So really focused on bringing community and fun and play into permaculture. And then I'm also a sales and permaculture consultant at Eden Energy, which is a company that can convert waste into regenerative products such as regenerative fuel, biochar, and organic fertilizer.
Great stuff. We'll get through all that. So we met at Food Forest Abundance.
Yep.
Yeah. I know how long ago, right? So do you want to take us back to the very start and your story, how you discovered permaculture and how you became a designer?
I'd love to. So I had a 10-year career in the food industry. I was a packaging engineer by trade. So working on like cereal boxes, yogurt cups, things like that. And then about 2.5 years ago, I got an Instagram ad from Ecoversity, and it was like, take a permaculture design course. And I was like, what is this? I'd never even heard the word permaculture. And I looked into it, and I just fell in love with it right away. I was like, wow, everything about it sounded great. It was like, hey, learn how to live off the land, learn how to grow food abundantly, learn how to design regenerative systems for food and water. And pretty much on the spot signed up for that course, took my 6-month permaculture design course with Ecoversity. And then I graduated in May of 2023. Yeah, May of 2023. And then I at that point I was like, I want to do, and then I learned you can do it full time. Then I actually, by hearing about Food Forest Abundance, I noticed, wow, there's people doing this full time. There are designers who are doing this full time. So I hired actually Food Forest Abundance to do a design for me. And then the designer I worked with, I was like, hey, I'll work with you, but I want to be mentored by you. That worked out really well. And that was about 2 years ago. So then from May 2023 to February of 2024, I was kind of percolating. I was building the infrastructure. I had the vision for PermaCulture Party. Like I kind of knew this was the company I was going to launch, but I was still working out how to do it. And I kind of took my time for about a year. And then about a year ago, almost to the day, probably a little over early February of 2024, I took the leap and left my corporate job and became a full-time permaculturist, founded PermaCulture Party. And it's been a good ride. It's been fun.
Yeah, so tell us about your the 6 months PDC you did with Ecoversity. How'd you find that?
It was a 72-hour, 6-month online course. Stephen Brooks and Penny Livingston were the instructors. So fantastic instructors, both with decades of experience, but in different ways. They're both a lot of fun. Stephen's a hoot for sure. Penny's just super knowledgeable. And it was an online course. So I met a global team of permaculturists through that course, or at least a global group of students, and really felt inspired through that course. We did our like group project. So if the group project, you get to choose a real world project to work on. I chose a 200-acre eco village in Canada because that was closest to the Minnesota climate I worked on. And it was great. Yeah. And then you also got to, I would say the PDC really gives you a breadth of permaculture. It gives you that bird's eye view of here's all the different levels of permaculture. And you learn about how it's a thought process. More than, permaculture, I would say more than it's like an exact, this is what you do. It's a framework of here's a way of thinking. Here are principles to follow. Here are ethics to base your thinking upon. And then it really changes the way you start to look at the world, where you start to think about how do we live more in harmony with Earth? How do we harvest the sun? And how do we harvest the Earth, which a plant is just Earth-absorbed sunlight. So how do we start to harvest these natural resources rather than extracting old resources and then creating a linear model? How do we create more of a circular, harmonious model of humanity with Earth?
And were you gardening before you did the PDC?
I was, but it was really just annual vegetable gardening, planting a few wildflowers. So yeah, I kind of always throughout my whole life had a passion for how do I make the world better? How do I live more sustainably? But I had a backyard vegetable garden, and that was about it. But I had not discovered, or I wasn't aware of the power of perennials and just how abundant you can create a space and like the layers of a food forest where you can have trees and shrubs and vines and ground covers, and you can eat it all or drink it all as medicinal tea. So I just had an annual vegetable garden, and then over the past couple of years, I've started to convert my urban home in Minneapolis to a food forest with fruit trees and berry bushes and perennial vegetables, medicinal wildflowers, and it's been fun. It's great to have a nice little learning lab there.
Yeah. Because I think that's important as well. You started out in gardening, you were thinking about, you didn't just land one day and say, I'm going to do a PDC. So, when you got paid Food Forest Abundance for your design, you had your PDC then?
Correct. Yep. Yeah. I applied there after I had my PDC.
Right. Yeah. I mean, in terms of you said you paid them to do your design.
Oh yeah, I actually hired them to do my design,
and that was after your PDC.
That was during my PDC. So
during
while
PDC?
I was during my PDC,
Yeah.
I hired them, and Graham was my designer. So he became my mentor, and so yeah, it was parallel.
And what was the thinking behind that? Was it so you could get a mentor and you could see how the process worked?
It was all the above. I wanted to learn. Well, one, I wanted a food forest at my house, and even though I was in the middle of a PDC and I was learning how to design, a backyard food forest, I still knew I had a lot to learn. So I still was like, there's going to be value in hiring a professional company to design this with me. For one, just to make sure I can do it the best way possible. Two, I want to learn what it's like to I want to experience that of like, if you hire a designer to design a house, I want to experience that because I want to be on the other end one day. And I also very strategically wanted to work there. And I knew I wanted to be mentored in the process. So that was the stipulation. I was like, I'll buy a food forest design if I can get mentored in the process. And Graham was like, yeah, that's great.
So and do you think that was worth doing it that way?
It was for sure, because I got my foot in the door and I got that taste of, I just got to experience that whole thing. And now it's on the other end where I'm a designer. I have a permaculture company. When I have a steward come to me, I know I'm the one giving them a consultation and then proposing a design, which design we should do, and then either completing the design or running, having another designer on my team complete the design. So it was definitely worth it.
Yeah. And any big revelations during the 6 months of your PDC?
I would say it was like kind of the clicking of how many solutions are known, and how I think, in my opinion, so many of the world's problems are a lot less complicated than they're made to be. And permaculture helped provide that framework, that knowledge, that mindset that we can solve a lot of our problems, and so many of our problems are just, we're destroying the planet. And there's like, oh, we need to, I mean, who says this or why it's happening, we can argue, but like, we're cutting down rainforests to grow corn. It just doesn't make sense. But the argument is, well, we need more corn to either feed people or to feed cows to feed people. But you can grow food in a way that regenerates the planet. So it's actually the opposite, where food is actually a way we can heal the planet. And areas that have, if you take like a cornfield in Iowa that used to be a diverse prairie with buffalo and all sorts of animals, now it's just growing corn and soybeans, monoculture, pesticides. We can actually revert that back into a lush prairie by integrating food crops, perennial food crops, and putting buffalo back on the land, or cows. So food is actually one of the world's biggest problems when we grow it degeneratively, but it's also one of the world's biggest solutions, where if we start to grow food the right way, and not only just the right way at scale, like Iowa example, but also in all of our backyards, all of our lawns. I think it's the size of Yellowstone in America is the amount of American lawns of just people cultivating a single crop that doesn't produce any yield at all. And it takes chemicals to do that. If we just start to partner with nature, we can start to eat our lawns and turn them into berries and trees and fruits and asparagus and all sorts of good stuff.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned that the solutions are out there, because it's a pet peeve of mine that all these solutions are like, let's build a carbon capture machine and pump gas.
I
It's
know.
just daft. And you have Bill Gates turning around and saying like, no, don't plant trees. No, we're not the idiots. And it's like, but let's treat all this waste using these big machines. And it's like, well, all the solutions are there in nature.
Yep.
So you just have to modify it. It's not the most profitable for a corporation or company to do, but the solutions are there. And that really drives me mad when I see all this stuff coming on TV. It's like the solutions already exist.
Yeah, nature is
Uh,
a divine intelligence, and it knows how to regulate itself. And but even if you just stop attacking nature, it will regenerate. And if you proactively partner with it, then it just regenerates even faster. But step one is just stop attacking. Like if you just stop spraying chemicals on your lawn and you leave a 10 by 10 foot section that you don't mow, by the end of the summer, you're probably going to see wildflowers and bees just literally by doing nothing, much less if you actually proactively partner with nature. So yeah, the solutions, I wholly believe that the solutions for humanity are known right now.
yeah. Oh, it's crazy. So you were working. When did you decide then to leave your career and pursue permaculture? Was that
Almost a year
after
ago to the day, it was February of 2024.
right?
So
And do you
I
want to tell
left
us?
my career and then, oh yeah, so I left my
So
career. Yeah,
so
go
what
on.
was that? What was that thought process like? So you've done a PDC now. You've done a design. How do you make that leap? And was that a leap of faith, or how do you make that
It was a
jump?
leap of faith for sure. It was, I mean, I'll say just one from without trying to sound woo, but from a spiritual perspective, I knew I was doing what I came here to do, from like what my soul came to this body to do. So that made the faith much easier. It definitely still was a leap of faith, but I knew that this was my calling. And it helped that I had a 10-year career in corporate America. So I did have a cushion to start with, and I had, I mean, that helped without a doubt, just no doubt about that. I had a 401k, things like that. And, but yeah, it was a leap, and I took my time with it because, like I said, I graduated in May of 2023 with the PDC. And then I took the next 9 months where, even though I knew I wanted to do this, I knew PermaCulture Party was going to be my company. I let it kind of percolate, and I figured out what the business model would be. What exactly is PermaCulture Party? Like, what is the mission? What is the overview, or not the overview, the mission, the vision, and then just took my time with it. And then when I joined the team at Food Forest Abundance, I felt like, okay, I have another avenue in addition to my PermaCulture Party work, and it just felt right. And there also was things I wanted to do. Like there was a regenerative conference in Mexico, and I knew there was a community called Regen Tribe. They were going to be at that conference, and there was just some things in Latin America I knew I wanted to do in March of last year, so that helped put the impetus. Like I actually went down and lived in a community in Tulum, Mexico for a month last year, March to April. So I had some things targeted of what the timing was, and it all just lined up.
Oh, congratulations on making the move.
Thank you.
And any advice for people who want to make a similar move?
Have a plan. Don't just, I mean, yeah, I guess follow your heart for one. Like, try to really figure out, why am I doing this? Am I doing this because it's my purpose? Am I doing this just because I don't like my job? Or am I really like diving into something that's purpose driven? What's the plan? So what are my finances? Do I have, what's my cushion? How much income do I need? How much income can my current cushion last me? So just making sure you have that plan, and unequivocal faith. Just pray for it. If you believe, like I do, that manifestation is a universal law, then get a manifestation journal and manifest it, and the world will start to put opportunities in front of you. And I say with with the intent of humility, but the universe is putting opportunities in front of me that I never honestly could have dreamed of. And taking that leap of faith was kind of that spark that led to a lot of other opportunities, like working with Eden. So taking that leap of faith, and then you just start to meet the right people. And once you're in your flow, people start to come into your life that are meant to be your partners.
Yeah. Oh, great stuff. No, I definitely think there's something in that, because you don't know what's coming your way until you actually start the journey, and then things come your way that you didn't know existed.
Yep, absolutely.
So I would definitely second that. So you made the leap then, and in March you went down to Regen Tribe.
Yeah, it was Regen Tribe is a global kind of regenerative collective. They help start up regenerative communities, and they have an active community in Tulum, Mexico. So yeah, I lived there for a week, and then there was also a conference called Regen Week, which was a regenerative confluence of thought leaders. And then I'll come back to that, but then quickly, Regen World is the same production team putting an event on in Austin, Texas in March this year. So, and we will be at that. PermaCulture Party will be at that. But yeah, that's as will Eden. But yeah, so that was the leap.
And was that your first permaculture party down in Mexico?
It was, yeah. It was the first ever permaculture party was ever Gen Week last year, and it was great. It was probably like 30 people showed up. We planted yucca, moringa, some holy basil, a couple other plants, and had people playing handpan, slacklining. Like it was a really good fit. And that was March? Yeah, March of last year. And then I like officially, I had already formed PermaCulture Party LLC at that point, so I'd already had my business, but I officially launched my business on Earth Day last year. So that was even like kind of before I officially announced my business launch. But yeah, that was the first ever PermaCulture Party, which that was down in Mexico, actually.
Great stuff. And you want to give us an overview now of PermaCulture Party? What inspired it? What's it about?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I first, and I don't think I have the exact, like this is exactly when the PermaCulture Party clicked, but I started to hear about perma blitzes, and like I'd already fallen in love with permaculture, and I was like, how do we get more people to do this? Why isn't everyone doing this? And then I heard about a perma blitz where you bring your community together to do permaculture. And then I was just like, well, why don't we call it a permaculture party? That was kind of just like one thought. And then the other thought just it kept harping on of how do we get more people to do this? And to me, the answer was just we have to make it fun. People like parties. So how do we just make permaculture so fun and simple and practical and tangible, and do it in a way that brings people together, that it inspires and empowers more people to adopt the lifestyle? And then that kind of vision just stuck, where I knew I wanted to do permaculture parties. And then that's continued to morph, where then I realized, well, okay, PermaCulture Party is the mission, it's the brand, it's really a movement. I eventually envision it becoming a community and a regenerative lifestyle brand. But so it continues to grow and expand, where I was like, well, it's also going to be a design firm where we're going to do permaculture designs. We're also going to do professional permaculture installations. We're going to do permaculture parties and plan. We actually, on that, Arger Bride and Chanel Smith from Family Permaculture, we planned a whole permaculture festival last year, and we're going to do that again this year, the Amnam Fall Festival in Eureka Springs in the fall. So it's continued to morph and flow, but ultimately it was like, we're going to have a permaculture party. At its core, it's going to be about making permaculture fun and combining the activation, the divine masculine, where we're going to do the thing, we're going to plant the trees, with the divine feminine, the celebration, the dance, the art, the culture, the play, and try to merge those into a lifestyle.
Yeah, and we're doing a collaboration together. So Permaculture Party is going international with Fine Ireland.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
So do you want to just explain how people can work with you? So for the likes of myself in Ireland here, how we're working together, and basically how that somebody can actually partner with you anywhere in the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we really, I envision that Permaculture Party offers is a solution for every steward across the world, across demographics, across income levels. We really want to meet the steward where they are, or the installer in your case, or the professional permaculturist, partner with them in whatever way we can provide a service. So in the case of working with you, Cormac, for the Permaculture Party, we have different tiers where like the standard Permaculture Party is where Permaculture Party, and it can get confusing because like Permaculture Party is the business, but then the actual Permaculture Party is the event. But anyway, so our standard Permaculture Party is where we will plan the whole thing. We'll plan it, we'll market it, we'll create a marketing flyer, we'll show up to the party, we'll bring all the plants, we'll set the plants out ahead of time, and then we'll host the event. We'll have like an opening circle. We'll make sure there's enough shovels. We'll lead the whole planting thing. We'll coordinate a potluck, kind of plan the whole thing. And then from there, there's tiers where we'll be less involved and where the cost goes down because we're less involved. So for the example, in your case, we're not going to fly to Ireland to lead this event. You're going to lead it if it goes through, and then, but we'll help plan and market it. So we have a party template of like, here's the checklist of everything you need to make sure you plan a successful party. We'll provide like the template, the branding. We can create a marketing flyer, and then you'd actually lead the installation. So then it costs less than if we do it all. And then the like free version is you can just go to permaculture.party, our website, and sign up for a free consultation. And then, which anyone can do. Anyone across the world can sign up for a free consultation where we'll just chat and we'll help answer any questions you have. And if your question is, hey, I want to plan a permaculture party, but I don't have the funds or the desire or whatever to actually pay for anything, then we'll just chat about how to plan a party. And you'll have to do everything, but we'll still provide that free consultation service.
Oh, that's great. That's handy too for people who might have the resource to do that. To get them going. So people might ask, why would I do this myself? But I like the fact that you're working with a brand, and as well you can come on board and make sure it's all done right. And I think that collaboration is good as well between different permaculture professionals with different strengths. And you can't, I don't think everybody can do everything themselves. So that's why I gravitated towards it, because the clients I'm working with now at the minute really like the idea of a permaculture party, but I don't think it's within my skill set at the minute to offer them that. So that's why partnering, I think, is a good thing. And plus, to tap into the bigger brand. And if the bigger brand gets me more sales because I'm offering permaculture parties, well, that's great. And I think that's why one benefit that I think, anyway, for me, doing it in collaboration rather than just myself.
I love that. Thank you. And that's absolutely part of the vision, is that a rising tide lifts all boats. I firmly believe in permaculture. There's no such thing as competitors. There's only collaborators. So
I wish everybody thought like that.
Yeah, it's working for me. I mean, every permaculturist out there, like, I want to work with you. And until we regenerate I meant to look this up, but the many, many, many billions that are spent on degenerative landscaping, until that whole industry is regenerated, then there's nothing but opportunity. If we regenerate all the lawns across the world, then sure, maybe let's talk about how we're competitors. But until then, only collaborators.
Yeah, there's plenty of work to go around.
Yep.
So what's in the... so if anybody wants that, go to Permaculture Party and see all the options there and book that free appointment. What's the plans for 2025? You mentioned a few conferences and things there.
Yeah, a lot of fun plans. This next March, coming up soon, we're going to be in Austin, Texas, doing a permaculture party at Regen World. And then we have a couple permaculture parties planned in Eureka Springs, Arkansas in May. And we have work lined up in Minneapolis as well. So we have a few parties already locked down in Minnesota this year. We got one in Michigan lined up. And then we'll be at Earth Vibe Festival, which is in Wisconsin. It's in the middle of July. Earth Vibe Festival, that'll be a really fun event. We're going to be doing a permaculture party there. And my partner, Chanel Smith, my life partner and one of my business partners, she'll be at a lot of these events with me. Most of them, if not all the ones I just mentioned, leading permaculture parties. And then she brings in Her company is Family Permaculture, where they help plan kid-friendly, playful events at the parties, playful educational events for all ages. So we're going to be kind of traveling around a lot this year, doing events in different locations, permaculture parties, installations, a few festivals. So those are some of the main events we have coming up. And if you are interested in a permaculture party, I really would encourage you to reach out soon, because our calendar is getting pretty booked up, and just in full candor. So it's good to lock some dates down, absolutely in advance. And so those will continue to grow. I'm sure we'll have a lot more parties that come up. But we have those events, and then what we're really excited about is we're launching an internship. So we're going to empower people to run their own permaculture company. So the vision for the internship is find interns who are hungry to change the world. Like, that's kind of the base criteria, is you have to be wholly aligned with our mission. You have to have a thirst to not only regenerate the world, but to go get it. Because this internship is going to teach you how to generate sales. And like, one of those avenues will be going door to door, knocking on doors, being like, hey, how you doing today? My name's so-and-so. I'm with PermaCulture Party. We'd love to plant some fruit trees in your yard and throw you a party. Is that something you might be interested in? And then obviously there's going to be different variations of that sales pitch, but that's the gist of it, is going door to door and educating people on how they can regenerate their landscapes in an edible way that produces a yield. But there's so many ways to get sales too. They could also write grants. They can reach out to corporations. They can reach out to public parks. But at its core, it'll be an internship where they'll generate sales, and then they can also lead or collaborate with me or another professional installer to install foodscapes and plan permaculture parties, and then learn on the job. And then ideally, the vision is then people will have a successful internship. They'll learn all these life skills. They'll get inspired. And some people might just go on and live their lives and take that experience. But ideally, some people will say, hey, I just want to do this full time. And then there will be a path for them to open up their own permaculture party, like franchise, essentially, where then they can run their own permaculture business, where I don't have to lead the installs, because they actually know what they're fully equipped to lead them on their own at that point.
Right. So take it this as a in real life internship, or can someone do this online?
Yes. Like, we will do some online trainings, but it will be an in-person. I do still vision, like, getting some in Arkansas, getting some in Minnesota. We've talked to like Henry Hayes is out in Seattle, and Ben Cinderman's in South Carolina, Graham Towerton's in Michigan. So, and hey, if you wanted one in Ireland, we could look at that too. So I do, if I have a trusted permaculture partner in a location, that's where it will be in scope to have an intern that could, because I need a trusted permaculture partner to lead the installations and the parties that the intern might sell. So that's kind of where the regions will be located.
Right. So so we're partnered together. So if I start throwing permaculture parties partner with you, then I could have an intern here. Is that what you're saying?
Potentially, yeah. If you wanted, yeah.
I have to keep all the competition out of Ireland.
Yeah, if you wanted, if you wanted an intern knocking on doors and being like, hey, your yard's really beautiful, but it'd look even better if we put a beautiful medicinal wildflower patch and a couple of fruit trees. Would you be interested in that? and they'll have a whole sales brochure with the price list, and where they can sit down with the steward and say, look, here's an exact image of what a 200 square foot edible pollinator garden looks like with an exact price. So it'll really help, hopefully empower them to communicate to the steward exactly what they're going to be getting, and meet every steward where they are. Because like the simplest product is just a fruit tree guild. So one fruit tree with supporting beautiful plants around it. And that is something that's tangible that homeowners can get. Because I think a lot of homeowners, if you start to explain permaculture and food forest, some of them are going to be like, that is so cool. But some of them are going to be like, that's kind of seems crazy. I just want to have a nice lawn. But then we can say, well, okay, then let's just plant one fruit tree, put some beautiful flowers around it, start there. And then that's a more tangible thing for some homeowners to grasp.
Yeah, no, that is a good idea. It's so I work still part time as an engineer, so I haven't made the full leap yet. So I'm hoping this year now to earn enough so that I can quit the day job. So I'll maybe I'll be knocking on some doors before the end turn.
Yeah, why the heck not?
Yeah, so I
It's a
have
great way
one
to
job.
build community too. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, well, I have one job coming up now. So I'm hoping that's sort of like a springboard to my local business because all my designs have been remote so far. One more in Ireland, but again, that was remote. So I'm hoping that springboards it. And then we're organising a seed and plant swap as well in a fortnight's time.
Awesome.
So hopefully that might drum up some interest as well. So I might come with that approach of putting in just a small fruit tree guild. Be a good
Yeah,
idea.
I love that. And
So I'm going to
honestly, I was, or sorry, what?
I'm going to steal that one.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Hold on, ashamedly.
No, only no competitors, only collaborators.
Uh,
Like,
uh,
there's just I'm not trademarking stuff. I mean, like, but and then, but honestly, what I've learned is the permaculture party itself is the best marketing asset because people show up to an event. Like actually today, Chanel and I have a meeting with a steward who I met at a permaculture party last year, where she showed up at a party of her friend's house, saw the whole thing live, saw us planting blueberry, or well, helped. She actually was planting blueberries. Uh, we planted a couple apple trees. We spored mushrooms in the forest. And then she was like, "Hey, let's do it. I can see this now at my house. Let's come on over to my house." And now we're doing a design for her. We're going to do an install this year. So the parties themselves become this great marketing event because people see it live and they're like, this isn't that crazy. It's just planting stuff we can eat, but you can still have space for activities. We don't need to get rid of our whole lawns. We want space for play. We need, kids to play and dance. So you can do all this while still maintaining areas to play and open spaces.
yeah, and I think the really thing I really like about it is that community aspect that people are thriving and missing out on. These days, like it's not as ubiquitous as it used to be. So people are actually having to make an effort, and a permaculture party is perfect for that. Getting to know people that with similar interests, they care about the earth, they care about the planet, and it's a fun way of meeting instead of meeting and talking of depressing about climate change and the end of the world.
Yeah, it's a solution. Instead of just saying like, "Oh, the
Uh,
world's just burning," like, well, let's just plant stuff. So like, yeah,
yeah,
and
uh,
and it really does. You can get so much done with a lot of people, and and I always stress at the beginning of the parties, like, do whatever you want to do. This is not about overworking yourself. This is about having fun. So if you just want to lay on the grass the whole time, lay on the grass the whole time. Do what makes you feel good. But if you get even 10 people, which a lot of the parties, I don't know if I said the average is probably 20 people, but we've had as much as 50 at a festival. But even if you
wow.
get 10 people who do 1 hour of planting, that's 10 hours. You can plant a lot of stuff in 10 hours. So it really does. And then you only spend 1 hour at the party planting, and then the rest of the party is just a normal event where everyone's just having fun and doing whatever they like to do at that party.
Yeah. And so do you prep the sort of party venue before you turn up, obviously? Do you put the
Yeah,
trees where they're supposed to be and
yes. But what I typically like to do is show up and set the plants exactly where we're going to plant them. And you can do different projects. So you could do prep at a party, but where you like putting mulch on the land and stuff. But in my experience, they run the most smooth when you just show up, you put the plants exactly where they're going to be planted, and then people can you just tell them, hey, plant the thing exactly where it was. And then you can do a quick little demonstration at the beginning of how to plant a plant. But in general, that's where it goes the smoothest because there is a lot going on. If you have 20 people planting stuff and you're kind of bopping around and trying to keep your eyes on everything, make sure if the plants weren't in the exact spot, it'd be pretty easy for things to get mixed up. But that way people know, just like, all right, this blueberry bush is going to go right here. Boom. It's kind of hard to mess up. And then we also frequently will do a painting event as well. And it's really whatever the steward values, but most of the time, painting seems to be a really good hit of all ages, not only with kids, but adults love to paint too. So a common thing we'll do is we'll have a garden box, and then you can paint the garden box and paint like community herb garden box or just herb garden box, whatever you want for whatever your vision is. And then like at a party we had at my house where there were 7 different people all painting the same garden box at the same time with the same theme of geometry. So it's cool. So now in my front yard, right in my urban Minnesota neighborhood, it says community herb garden box, and you'll see neighbors walk by and they're kind of like, they read it, but they're kind of like, can I actually take an herb? And they'll just be like, hey, how's it going? You know, feel free to clip some herbs on the way home. And I've met more people over the last year than I had the first 5-6 years I lived at the house, just because I'm in my front yard working. And whenever someone walks by, I'll say, hey, feel free to clip an herb on the way out. And it really is like a way to build community, because I've met more people, like I said, in a year than I truly think I did in the first 5 years of living in my neighborhood.
Well, I'm going to steal that one as well, because I have I have fruit trees out the front and raspberries, and nobody takes them.
Yeah, well, they're not invited. You haven't invited them to yet.
Yeah, you know? So I say, if you can reach it, help yourself.
Yeah, that's that's awesome. And then people are like, oh, this is so cool. You know, let's share. And then you start, and then the vision builds of. Then you start talking to your local parks, like, hey, let's put a little edible food forest in the park. And then it just builds. And that's the vision, is the snowball effect.
Class. You mentioned there too, Eden Energy.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us about your role with them?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a sales and permaculture consultant at Eden Energy. And what Eden Energy's technology does is, at its core, it's a carbon conversion technology. So it can handle all of the carbon waste in the world, which carbon is most things, like carbon is life, right? So it's all not only things that were alive recently, but everything that was alive millions of years ago. So plastics, oils, those are carbon based. So it can handle all the carbon waste simultaneously. So all your mixed plastics, all your food waste, all your carcasses from animal slaughterhouses, all your rubber tires, all that can be converted in their system, processed simultaneously. And it's kind of like a reverse engineering of what Mother Earth does, where Earth will take plant biomass, turn it into base carbon forms over millions of years. We call those fossil fuels. But now Eden's technology can do that with carbon that's already been extracted from the ground. So instead of sucking fossil fuels out of the ground, we can just take all of our literally pollution, like the plastic waste that is drowning cities. There's communities in the world that just live smothered in plastic waste. There's ocean plastic, there's river plastic, there's food waste everywhere. There's slaughterhouses that process literal tons a day of animal carcasses. And then there's blood, guts, beaks, feathers. All that can be processed with an Eden system and then converted into clean burning regenerative fuels, organic biochar and organic fertilizer. So then, what I really like to talk about Eden is that at its core, it's a permaculture company, because even though it's a company that it takes waste and converts it into energy and fertilizer, permaculture teaches us about how to develop a regenerative society, and it covers all of our needs. So food, water, waste, energy, shelter, community. Well, Eden Energy can take all the world's pollution, all the carbon pollution and waste, turn it into clean energy that empowers local communities. So there's your energy and waste. But then also the organic fertilizers and biochar that come out of Eden can be used to cultivate food forests for that local community. So a local community that is currently struggling with plastic waste and they don't have a good landfill management can now not only be empowered, but they can help cultivate food forests, which feed that community and then sequester even more carbon from the air, because your food forests are going to sequester carbon, because that's what plants do. And that's one vision with Eden, is the Eden Initiative, where the profits of the company will be used to fund regenerative foodscapes around the world. So it really is a way. I just am so inspired and grateful to be part of the company, because in permaculture, one of the most famous sayings is, the problem is the solution. Well, this quite literally can take one of the world's biggest problems, pollution, and turn it into a regenerative solution, which is just super exciting.
It sounds very sci-fi from.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Sounds too good to
Uh,
be true. I agree.
yeah, and it's these units are up fully working.
They're ready to manufacture. Yeah, we've had the companies they had a 200 ton per day facility in Missouri that processed a literal 200 tons per day. It was designed for 250, so over 200 tons a day of turkey waste. So it was all these frozen turkey brand, the blood, the guts, the beaks, the feathers. It converted all that into this. So the technology is ready to manufacture. We can create systems right now. If we get an order, they're ready to go, and it's been a long time coming. That I won't go deep into this, but the technology is almost 30 years in the making. So it's gone through a lot of R&D to get here, and it's gone through different business models. And right now, it's the right business model at the right time, because the business model now is that we are selling pieces of equipment so that anywhere in the world, wherever there's waste, they can have a modular system that meets their needs, whether it's 2 tons per day or hundreds or thousands of tons per day. We sell the equipment, give it to the waste, the entity that has waste, whether that's a community or a slaughterhouse, whatever. And then, we'll make sure we help them run it well. We'll still do remote monitoring, things like that. We'll train them how to run it, but ultimately they get to then own their waste. So we're selling the equipment.
Great. So the who's your customer? Is it municipalities, councils, or is it actual businesses themselves? So like if I had a factory outputting 2 tons of waste a day, I would buy one of these and I output fertilizer and biochar.
Yep. Yeah. So all the above
No.
could be our customers. We could handle just typical MSW, which is municipal solid waste. So this could be something that instead of landfilling where you just bury trash or incinerating it where you burn it, but that releases a lot of harmful toxins into the air, this can process that. So it could be cities, could be a customer, municipalities could be a customer, any business owner who has waste. So what if you say you're in the tire business and you just have a bunch of tires, you don't know what to do with them, or even if you were a permaculturist who was raising bamboo to sustainably harvest, because bamboo is a perennial grass, you could just crank bamboo into this system and then turn it into clean fuel and biochar and fertilizer. And with slaughterhouses, stadiums, huge wedding events, really anywhere where there's ocean cleanup, cleaning up plastic from rivers, anywhere where there's waste, this system can help turn that waste into power. And just to mention real quick, when I mentioned the fertilizer, if there is like food and animals, that's when we get the fertilizer, because all of the like plastics, for example, are just pure carbon based. So those would just break down into the fuels and biochar. But like an animal carcass would pump out a really potent fertilizer that can be used.
Alex, that's fascinating. You'll need to give me a link below so people can go and your contact details as well if anybody wants to chat more with you about that. Are you offering free calls on that as well, or?
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can share all of that information.
So that'll be there in the description. That sounds amazing. Potentially, like so, yeah, something to consider for every permaculturist who wants to process waste.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because it
Yeah,
solves
great.
the, we need a solution to waste. We need a solution to energy demands. The world needs food forests, and they need fertilizer. They need biochar. So it kind of just circulates. I really say it cleans and filters carbon, then circulates it. Is how I view it.
And can I buy one here in Ireland?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's happy
Absolutely.
days. Alex, it's been we've covered a lot there. It's been great. Is there anything we haven't covered or anything else?
Yeah, I want to share one more thing too. And yeah, it's just one other partnership this year that I'm really excited about. It's with a nonprofit called Neighborhood Forest, and it's one of the most impactful nonprofits I've ever heard of, where their entire mission is they give free trees to children, and like that's They just give free trees to children. So every child that participates in their program gets their chance to have their very own tree that they plant and get to watch grow up. And they're local in Minneapolis, and we've been partnering with them. And now we're putting together PermaCulture Party, Neighborhood Forest, and Family Permaculture as well, are putting together some events that corporations, like corporate volunteer events, that are really exciting. So one event we have is you can plant a food forest with children. So if you're a corporation out there who wants to have a meaningful volunteer event, or just an individual, they could do this, but we're kind of pitching it to corporations that like to spend their money on regenerative things. So a volunteer event where you could plant a food forest at a school with children. And then another volunteer event we're doing is where you can build a mini food forest. So we'll have 3 perennial plants, say a strawberry, a chives, and a lavender. And then part of the volunteer event is where we would pack those 3 plants into one 12-inch biodegradable pot. And then that's the volunteer event. Then that will be given to a child who can then either plant it outdoors to start their own little mini food forest, because that'd be a 2-layer food forest. You have a ground cover and an herbaceous layer. Or that child could cultivate it indoors, where they could actually keep growing that indoors if they don't have access to land, if they live in an apartment or something like that. So I just want to share that too. That's another just super exciting partnership, and it's just such a meaningful company. So if you're in North America right now and you're interested in your child getting a free tree, you can check out Neighborhood Forest.
That sounds amazing. We'll include that link as well. You have a lot of links to send me.
Sounds good.
Alex, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure, and thank you for coming on, sharing your story, sharing your links. And guys, that was Alex Popp, and that's been the Permaculture Vine podcast, and we'll chat to you all next week. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Cormac.